Still, do not have an intro, but you may see I am chirpy today. I am chirpy. We've had an upgrade. We're going professional now. You can see we've got the Rode microphone, we've got the headphones, and basically like Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan without the animal killing and the hunting and that stuff. You do you, Joe. I do me. Talking about additions. This here, it's supposed to be an HD webcam. Do I look HD to you? I thought I was going to maybe con some of you guys, some of the female viewers, maybe sliding in the DMs after they see Padzini go in HD, but no, maybe there's some setting or something, but I'm not sure about this. Anyway, there's a story to all of this upgrade. Last week, my friend Jason Mack, very good poker player, very nice guy, a little bit critical at times, but in a constructive way. He messages me. He's like, Padzini, your video class, really good. I love the ICM, I love the HRC, I love all the bells clicking. Yeah, you're going professional here. It's really good, but it's a big problem. I'm like, what's the problem? He's like, you don't sound sexy. I'm like, you what? He's like, yeah, you don't sound sexy. I'm like, what are you talking about? He says, you're going quiet, you're going loud, your microphone's somewhere in the distance, you're just not doing it right. People aren't going to listen to you if you don't sound good. I'm like, yeah, but like, I can't buy all this professional podcast stuff. Stars haven't had a series for like 11 days. There's no EV for that kind of stuff. He's like, no, I've looked into it. I've looked into it for you. I'm like, well, go on then, tell us. He's like, YouTube pay you after you have 1,000 subscribers. This thing called monetization. I'm like, shut up. He's like, honestly, I'm like, YouTube are going to pay me to make these videos where I'm promoting myself. Why would they do that? He's like, yeah, it's what to do to like incentivize people to be content creators. I'm like, Jason likes to wind me up a little bit of a teaser. We have a little bit of jokes here and now. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do some research myself. I'm not going to make sure I'm not getting mugged off here by this guy. So I'm like, okay, go into YouTube backend, YouTube Studio it's called. Click on monetization. And it says when you get 1,000 subscribers, you start to get paid by YouTube. I'm buzzing. So I'm like, okay, great. I go into Amazon. I sort price high to low. Now I'm YouTube rich. It doesn't matter. We get the best of the best, right? So we get the Rode microphone, the Bose headphones. They get delivered the next day. My videos coming out where I fold pocket jacks. Yeah, I know, guys in the comments. I always fold pocket jacks. Always free bet me from the big blind. I know. I've seen all you guys so clever, getting all the likes. Come on, don't chase that cloud. That's not what it's all about. But anyway, this comes in. I release the video. I go to sleep and there's 2,000 views for this video. We're puking up here. I'm like, oh my days. So I wake up the next day. And I'm like, okay, I need to check how many people have seen this and how much are YouTube going to pay me. I'm expecting the big bucks now, right? If they're paying me to be a content creator, I am a professional content creator. Pads on poker here, making videos, getting the big dollar for it, right? So I'm like, okay, great. Log into YouTube Studio and it tells me 37 cents. I'm like, 37 cents? 37 cents for what? Per viewer, per subscriber. That's not too bad. But no, 37 cents for the whole thing. I'm like, oh my God, I've spent all the Christmas money on this. How am I going to? I've worked out I have to make 217 videos before the end of January just to pay back for the things I've bought. I mean, there's some anxiety going on here. I mean, if you look at this eyebrow. You see this eyebrow here? It's almost joining onto my hair. My barber messaged me. He's like, Padzini, what's going on? You haven't been for a trim. I'm like, bro, there's this webcam stuff going on, but it's fine. It's in the past now. I had a few sleepless nights, but now I'm ready. Pads on poker, consistently making videos, not because I necessarily want to, because I have to. So today's video, it's ironically, it's going to be about a guy who would never consider 37 cents YouTube monetization. It's about a guy who has 22 million in cashes live. Probably another 10 million online. Probably another 10 million untracked on GG 25Ks. Who knows? It's a guy, debatably one of the best poker players in the world. A guy who makes training videos. A guy who's respected. A guy who's part of Ike Haxton's crew. It's Sam Greenwood. So yeah, this is going to be a little bit like, I see this now a bit like Robin Hood. It's the poor playing against the rich, trying to take it back. So yeah. If the editor's watching now, just put a little green hood on me. We can make this Robin Hood in the thumbnail. Maybe a few more people click. We go up to like 39 cents monetization. But yeah, this is going to be a clip from the Poker Coast I did. It's going to have a little bit of in-game kind of streaming and then me kind of reviewing the footage with PSolve afterwards. So I hope that you do enjoy the video. Please, please, for my own sake, my dog's sake, my family's sake, please subscribe, comment, like, all that stuff. We actually need it. Hashtag we need it. Yeah, hands on poker here, and we're gonna get into it.
King 10 off versus Sam Greenwood. You can see all this table are noted as aggressive regulars from the high stakes. We'll go for a call here. Decent flop. Will be interesting to see what he does. There's some merits for a very small raise to just, fold out a few hands like pocket fives, pocket sixes, under pairs, hands like maybe 6-7 suited, hands like king jack off, king 10 off, stuff like that. I'm going to have a bunch of flushes, which we'll want to raise. He's going to have some hands which I'll just give up. If I do get called, I'm in okay kind of shape. But I can also call. I think calling is also okay. Turn, we turn okay. This is the lay I will call. He could be protection betting something like ace queen high, so I don't see how I can fold this hand. And on the river, I will check folds. I don't think he's going to turn ace high into a bluff. King 10 here, do I want to bluff or not? I think I have a lot of one card clubs, so the one card clubs I can have will be like king queen, which is a value hand, king 9, which is a value hand. I will fold king 2, king 3, king 4. A lot of my 8x with a pairs like 8, 9. So I think this hand could actually potentially turn into a bluff. I'm not sure if I have a huge amount of showdown value here. So I think going for a large bet makes sense. And I'm value betting a very strong range against a lot of bluff catchers. So going for a large sizing, I think makes sense. And we will go for the 2x pot. Could just shove as well with the way the SPR is. I'm going to have some slow played flushes too, which we'll want to shove, unblocking like 2 pairs and straights and 9x and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a close spot. If he has ace queen, ace king, it's definitely pretty tough to call, even if he has a hand like 10 jack or ace jack. So I think big size in there makes sense for me, and I think turning this hand into a bluff. I think you do need to be careful turning too many hands into bluffs in those kind of spots, but I feel like my hand there makes sense because a lot of my kind of 8x hands will be like 8-9 or 10-8 or jack-8. So like it's not like I just have like 8-2 offsuit and call the flop, something like that. So I'm going to fold pre-flop. I could have something like king 8 offsuit, queen 8 offsuit, I guess. Sometimes I'll have a club.
Okay, so let's start with the pre-flop ranges. They're obviously going to be super crucial to the sims and the final outputs that we're going to analyze. You can see that I've given 3 different frequencies for Sam here. I've given hands which he'll always open at 100%, like aces, ace queen off, pocket tens, ace 5 suited. I've then given 75% frequency to like the next tier, hands which you will most likely expect him to open, but maybe he decides to fold for whatever reason. Then a third tier of 25% frequency of like queen 8 suited, pocket fours, queen jack off, which he most likely will fold, but he could definitely open for whatever reason. So I've put them in at some frequency to give us a more realistic output, let's say. Defending myself here, I've allowed myself 3 different frequencies too, actually. I have hands which I'm always going to shove, which is the pocket pairs, the high offsuit aces, the low suited aces. I then have hands which I will shove sometimes. So suited broadways, king 7 suited, ace 9 offsuit. So you might ask me the reason for some of these decisions, like odds why you shove an ace 2 but not ace 10. Ace 10 is way better, it has more equity. The thing with ace 10 is it realizes more equity. When we go post flop, I'm going to be against hands like king 10, queen 10, jack 10. I'm going to dominate them. I'm going to get value against them. I also beat more ace x hands, which he'll be opening. Whereas with ace 2, if he has king 10, he has such great equity against me. And I'm not going to realize all my equity with ace deuce because let's say the board comes down 9-8-7. He c-bets with king queen and I folded a hand with 60% equity against him. So these hands have good raw equity, but don't have great equity realization. So I go for a shove with these hands, but these hands like ace 10 might even over-realize equity. So these hands, I think, are going to perform better as calls, because if I shove ace 10, he's not going to call me with ace 8 all in pre-flop, right? So pretty simple, I think, but this is kind of how I approach the spot. Same with jack 10 suited, queen 10 suited. I shove these at some frequency because I want him to fold queen jack, king queen, king jack. But if I always shove them, then he can just start calling these hands, right? So I put them in at some frequency. Post flop, I've allowed him to c-bet 25% and a larger sizing. He chose 25% in game, so there's no point me running the sim with a 20% sizing or 30% sizing. And then, yeah, three sizes on the turn, three sizes on the river, two raise sizes for both players. I won't be having a leading range on the flop, so I've left that as it is. So let's go into post flop. So straight away, we can see that Sam is supposed to range bet his entire range for this small sizing. He has no real interest with either checking or using large sizing. He uses a small sizing, which is typically going to make me fold lots of just very static hands like king five of spades or queen 10 offsuit with no club, etc. He usually needs to bet the smallest amount. He's basically denying equity from a lot of my range and just betting very small. Even if he has a hand like, let's say, ace five, he's not really that interested in putting all the chips in, kind of thing. So lots of hands like pocket kings, pocket queens, pocket jacks, they're kind of betting for protection, some value against a one club hand, maybe against a hand like 8, 9, etc. And even I imagine that I haven't looked at this yet, you can see the sim hasn't advanced, but I imagine even my 7x hands may be indifferent against this kind of sizing. And yeah, obviously, if he bets his queen tens, he makes me fold king queen for such an efficient size. And so let's see what happens when he bets two. I think I suggested in game that I would like to raise at some frequency. I would imagine that my hand raises at like 30 to 40% frequency. I'm not sure. I believe my 7x will be indifferent. I believe my ace x will play just calls. And I think I'll get most of my raises from the kind of hand that I had, plus some hands which are like nutted, like maybe king x of clubs potentially. So let's have a look. He goes for the two. And yeah, we can see that our 7x is basically indifferent or even folding versus this small sizing. We can see that my exact hand, which was king of spades, 10 of clubs, raises at, yeah, around about 60% frequency. So actually raising kind of more aggressively than I suggested, which is good to know. We can see that I'm obviously just folding if I don't have a club in my hand. Hands that I'm fast playing, I'm fast playing bottom two pair, which is going to be bottom two pair is basically unblocking the top pair. So when I have two pair, he's more likely to have an ace, so he's more likely to continue. Whereas when I have ace7 offsuit, I have top and bottom. And you'll see very often, I've said it in other videos, but top and bottom is your most natural slow play. You're more likely to get counterfeited. You block hands which will continue. You don't beat the uber nuts in their range. So especially on mono, top and bottom, I think, acts as a really good slow play. So yeah, I think this is kind of how I thought I would play, apart from maybe I'm just raising at a more aggressive frequency. So we're going to call this time because that's what happened in game. In game, I believe the turn was a 10 of diamonds. Obviously, I'm not going to have a leading range. I believe that he will play quite heavy check here. I believe that hands like ace2 to ace5 suited will play pretty heavy check. I believe in reality, it's not good. I believe going for a block again on the turn with a hand like ace5 is good, but I think Pio will suggest that we go for a check with the low ace-x hands because they don't want to get check raised. I believe like ace queen plus will keep value bet at full frequency, and maybe ace jack because it has additional equity. Hands like 10, 9, etc. I expect to just check, and I expect all blushes to just continue betting. So let's have a look. Yeah, okay, the low ace x's are checking. I thought it might even be 100% frequency, but these hands actually check at 65% frequency. Ace 2, for example, checking basically always. So yeah, that's kind of good to see. And yeah, when he has the stronger ace x, he bets at a higher frequency. We can see that ace queen is one which he'll also slow play, and ace jack, like we kind of suggested, with the additional equity of having the straight draw, is going to be a full frequency bet. This is kind of how I imagine 10-9 basically checking full frequency. I don't think it's really like genius or anything to expect this. I think these low ace-x hands will actually be better as full frequency bets because we're going to see most likely that when he blocks, where did my raises come from? Where did my raises come from? My raises come from hands like this, yeah. So I'm basically going to be full frequency raising, or not full frequency, but very aggressively raising. Well, actually, I'm full frequency raising with Queen of Clubs X, King of Clubs X. You can see this hand here. So like Queen of Clubs 5 is raising at 100% frequency. I think very likely that this hand will not happening. I mean, I believe that I won't find 100% raise in game with this hand. So I think, especially at lower stakes and micro stakes and medium stakes, I believe that people will not be as aggressive on the turn versus block. Therefore, I think that the EV of betting these hands is going to be good. Because when you bet ace five, you really don't want to get check raised from queen four with the queen of clubs, right? It's a disaster, folding out the best hand. So you start, checking some of these hands because ace jack will just always continue because it has such great equity, it has a good shot. Even against hands like ace seven, ace eight, ace 10, it has the better two pair outs. So yeah, I believe that in game, if you're playing, don't take Pio's advice here. Play this turn more aggressively with these hands. Also, from my point of view, probably play more aggressively bluffing because people will be betting the smaller size for this kind of linear size and kind of more often, I believe. So it goes check, check. Okay, so before the river, let's have a think about how my range will look like. I guess my range on the river, I have kind of two ranges. I have a small kind of bet size, like two pairs, hands like Jack 8, Jack 10, Jack 7, like river two pairs. They definitely feel like they're worth a bet, but I don't feel like they're worth 2x pot because we're just going to run into better hands too often. His range is going to have a lot of bluff catches. If you think about his range, he has like jacks, queens, kings, which are kind of bluff catchers with a blocker. He has Jack 10, which is two pair, which is a bluff catcher with decent blockers. He has hands like Ace 6, Ace 5, Ace 4, Ace 2. They're all kind of bluff catchers with a blocker as well. So it feels like I definitely do want to have large sizings. But I also put pressure on that range and make that range indifferent with a smaller size in too. So I don't believe we'll have too much pot size going on. I believe we'll have mostly overbet and small. I could be wrong, and we just simplify and play kind of a pot size strategy in the end. That often happens in Pure, where kind of the hands will just fall into the middle category quite often, but I don't believe it'll happen this time. So yeah, I believe we'll value bet every two pair plus and every flush, obviously. So let's have a look. Let's go to the Jack of Diamonds. Interesting. So we are mixing between the three sizings. That's the first thing to observe. What goes into the small sizing? So the hands that are into small sizing are our two pairs. It seems like our ace 10 is the highest frequency. Then it's our jack 8s. I guess jack 7 will be there too. I guess jack 10 is also there as well. Yeah, jack 10 is there. So we're going for this kind of small sizing with our two pair, which makes sense. With our big sizing is when we have the nuts. So we have king queen, which is a straight. Or if we have clubs, I guess, yes, all of our flushes are going in. Most of our flushes that we didn't check raise the flop are going into this all-in sizing, which unblock kind of any pair, be straight like quick king queen and 9x, etc. So that makes a lot of sense. But I'm curious what's going into this range here. Okay, so makes sense. When we have the 9, we want to go for a bigger than a small bet, but smaller than a really large bet. So that makes sense, right? Like, and let's say on game, I want to be balanced for this and balanced for that, and roll this frequency and roll that frequency. But this should kind of just tell you, like when you have a hand which is worth a small bet, put a small bet in. When we have a hand which is worth a big bet, we put a big bet in. When we have a hand which is worth a pot size bet, put a pot size bet in. We'll then work our bluffs around our value range. That's kind of the way that I like to do it in game too, is what hands do my value hands want to go for here? Okay, now how much frequency of bluffs do I need for each one of my hands? The problem is in game, you don't have time to think of your entire range. If you want to have, say, 5 river sizings, you have to work out, okay, well, this hand needs to be in here 25%. This one needs to be in here 40%. I need to check and protect here 15%, etc. So it's very tough to do. This is why I think in game, having 2 sizings is better. So what I would do in game is basically have a small sizing, have a really big sizing, then the sizing in the middle, I would basically do 50-50. Like if I have a 9, like say 10-9, I would say, okay, I want to bet this hand. I don't want to start making a free sizing strategy on the river. So what I'm going to do is essentially put some into the small, put some into the big. It could be based on the suit of my card. It could be based on a randomizer. It could be based on whatever. But I'll kind of put this one into both categories. Then I'll make my strategy 33% more simplified. So Yeah, I mean, I think the analysis of this hand is quite interesting. I think one of the biggest takeaways, the two biggest takeaways, I believe, is that I believe my opponent should be betting more aggressively on the turn here with these hands because population will not be check raising a hand like Queen 5 at 100% frequency. I also believe that on the river myself, on the Jack, I should be using two sizings rather than three, and it's easier to put this pot size bet into two categories because I don't want to miss the really big bet because that's going to give me lots of EV and lots of hands in the small bet just can't bet bigger. So I like having these two sizings, and I would sacrifice this pot size bet to essentially allow me to have two sizings. Okay, so what I've actually just done here is run the sim again, but I've taken away the medium bet size and just allowed myself a small sizing and a really big sizing. Wouldn't really recommend generally having these two huge different sizings, but for the sake of this hand and the way that this board runs out, I think that's okay, the way that I want to have nuts and block kind of thing. So let's have a look, and we just run the action again. He bets small, we call, turn 10 of diamonds, check, check. River, Jack of diamonds. Yeah. So we can see here that this is good. See our 9x hands. This is kind of what I wanted to see. Which category does our 9x hands want to fall into? And you can see our 9x hands here actually want to go into the small size. They don't really justify the really big sizing, and they also protect, I guess, a little bit of our smaller sizing too. Something which is just a noteworthy thing here is that ace 9 really wants to check. Ace 9 wants to check here because it allows our opponent to turn hands into bluffs, which we unblock. So when we have an ace, he's never going to bluff with an ace, I don't think. He's never going to bluff, obviously, with a 9. So when we have ace 9, it's a really good hand to allow our opponent to bluff. So looking at actual results, you can see here that king 10 with the 10 of clubs wants to only use a big sizing, and king 10 with the king of clubs is using the smaller sizing. So when we do bet our hand, we want to go for this big sizing. However, in game, I think I probably rolled 100% frequency bet with our king 10. Like, I probably wasn't checking at all, which is quite interesting. So what I want to do here is look at the response. So when we do bet basically 2 times the pot, what does our opponent have to call with? He has to call all his 9x basically. He has to start folding some hands like sets, which is really good to see. He has to fold queens, which is quite obvious, I guess. He has to fold kings most of the time. It still calls sometimes. And he has to also fold aces most of the time. Hands like ace queen, however, are calling sometimes. Hands like king jack are calling sometimes. Hands like ace queen are calling pretty frequently. So it's tough to say, really. Hands like 9-8 are folding always, and the reason why straight is folding is because it doesn't really like a straight without a club is not blocking any of my value range, right? So when he has a 9, he doesn't beat any value. It's better to call when he has, let's say, ace queen with a club. Well, he'd probably bet that, but yeah, it's if he ever gets to the river with a hand like king jack or queen jack with a club. You can see king jack with a club here is calling 56% of the time, but pocket tens, which is a set, is folding 100% of the time because a lot of my bluffs are coming from king 10, queen 10. You know, this is where my main offsuit combo bluffs are coming from. I have 10, yeah, like 10-6 is also, I'm also going to bluff 10-6. I'm going to bluff queen 10. I'm going to bluff king 10. So this just shows really about when you're bluff catching the river, it's more important your blockers rather than your hand strength, because if he has a straight, he doesn't beat any value. If he has a set, he doesn't beat any value when I choose this big size. So it's really interesting how my polarized sizes make his bluff catchers want to do different things with different hands. Like, it's pretty crazy, right? That King Jack is calling 50% of the time with the club. It's actually calling 63% of the time with the King of Hearts, Jack of Clubs. Whereas pocket tens is pure folded. Like, that kind of thing is really interesting. It is also maybe a way where people can improve their approach in game as well. So yeah, I just wanted to add this as well, just quickly. Alright guys, so thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Try to keep it a little bit shorter this time. I've probably still gone a little bit too long. Please let me know in the comment section if you do enjoy a longer video or a shorter video, how long you want the videos to be. I don't want to make all the video 30 minutes if you guys just want to watch for like 7 minutes. But at the same time, I don't want to just do 5 minutes and rush through it if you guys would like longer videos. So thanks so much if you've gotten this far. Please go to the comment section. I usually try to reply to everyone. There's some good banter in that comment section. I actually back I back you guys and your banter in that comment section, so keep that up. I think I'm gonna go to my barber and get a trim on this eyebrow because I'm just not feeling it. I'm having to sit like this. I'm just not feeling it. So yeah, I've been Pads on Poker. Thanks so much for being here, and I'm gonna see you later on in the week for another video. Thanks a lot.